I worked the worst shifts, every weekday from 8 in the evening until 3 in the morning. I hardly get any sleep. My feet and arms ache constantly from lugging a bucket of soapy water and mopping the vast halls of this art museum. I also spend my time emptying trash cans and replacing the bags, mundane tasks that never change. My pay is $11 an hour, adequate, but far from stellar. The only redeeming aspect of the job is that I can listen to music while I work. I've been itching to quit for a long time, and after last night's events, I'm convinced I can't keep doing this job. I arrive at the museum at about 7:45, change into my uniform, and begin work at 8 sharp. The museum closes at 6, so it's always odd when I get there. The sky is dark, though not completely black, taking on a strange purplish-gray cast that makes the entire building seem dull. Most of the lights are off. Only those near the bathrooms and exits remain on. Almost every exhibit is dark, though a few statues and paintings are illuminated, probably so the security guards can check on them. I simply show up and do my job. I've been working here for the past 3 months, and while I don't believe my workload is proportional to the pay, I manage. I bike to work because I can't afford a car, and it's good exercise. The museum's interior is far larger than its exterior suggests. There's an immense space filled with long hallways bordered by tall marble pillars and ceilings adorned with murals of angels, deities, and other religious figures. It's astonishingly vast, and the building is under constant surveillance. I can't even imagine how much the art costs. Several security guards patrol each exhibit, usually 4 or 5 at a time, walking through the halls and monitoring the area. It's somewhat reassuring to know I'm not alone at night in this place. In fact, I once got to know one of the guards. I can't recall his name, and we discussed our favorite paintings and how eerie the museum becomes after hours. I was relieved to learn that I wasn't the only one disturbed by the unsettling expressions on the statues' faces in the dim light. That night, however, no guard was at the front door as usual. Normally, a guard would open the door for me, but tonight the doors were unlocked. I only had keys for the bathrooms and the janitor's closet, not for the main entrance. Once inside, I headed straight for the janitor's closet, located in a small hallway adjacent to the bathrooms. I unlocked the door and collected my work supplies. The day janitors have their own section in there, and I have mine. I'm the sole night janitor. During the museum's daytime hours, there are about 4 or 5 janitors who sweep the steps, clean the floors, and dust around. I unlocked the men's bathroom and began to change. I entered a stall, removed my sweatpants, and struggled with my navy work pants. Once they were on, I tightened my belt. As I started to take off my shirt, my music blared in the background, but then the bathroom lights suddenly turned off. The motion detector on the lights shuts them down after a minute of inactivity at night, so I had to wait on the toilet for them to flick back on. Once finished, I put on my yellow cleaning gloves and returned to the closet. I grabbed my soapy detergent, the mop bucket, and a mop, then set off to do my work. I was alone, as usual, and I barely registered the creeping unease as I cleaned, letting my music drown out my thoughts. After about 2 hours of mopping, I grabbed the window cleaning bottle and a rag and started wiping down the glass. That's when the light near one of the statues turned back on, and this time I noticed something wasn't right. One of the statues had vanished. It was simply gone. I knew it wasn't a prank by a guard. Only an art restorer or conservator is allowed to tamper with the exhibits, and that wasn't their work. I tried to attribute it to fatigue. I was tired, but deep down I felt it was something else entirely. Then another light went out, this one on the far side of the museum. Gradually, everything began to darken. I turned on my phone's flashlight. I hadn't noticed before, but now even the exterior lights and those near the bathroom were off. I slipped my headphones back on, trying to ignore the mounting terror. I wanted nothing more than to leave, but I knew I couldn't. After all, it was only 12 o'clock, and I had to finish my shift. I told myself that I'd sleep afterward and forget this ever happened. While cleaning the windows, I thought I saw a movement at the edge of my vision, but when I turned around, it had disappeared. Every detail, the distorted figures in the paintings, the unsettling expressions on the statues, the ceiling murals that seemed to mock me, made me increasingly paranoid. I was exhausted, but I had no choice. I had to finish my shift. I wasn't about to give up simply because these disturbing artworks made me uneasy. Once I had finished cleaning the windows around 1:30, I noticed something even more unnerving. One of the statues appeared out of place. I had memorized the locations of the statues, and something about its face was subtly different, just slightly off. I couldn't see it clearly, so I pointed my phone's light at it. Its eyes were empty, and its mouth twisted into a grotesque, unsettling smile. I thought I glimpsed crooked teeth, but I didn't get a proper look before my phone abruptly died. I sprinted to the exit, certain that what I was witnessing was not how the statue normally appeared. Its entire face had illuminated except for the eyes, which were now mere dark voids. I realized I had only an hour and a half left before I could finally leave, and I intended to quit the next day. Taking a deep breath, I returned to the janitor's closet. I changed back into my normal clothes and went to the bathroom. I flicked the lights on and entered a stall with its door already open. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and then sat down with a heavy feeling of dread. I removed my work pants and began to undo my belt. As I fumbled with the buckle, I heard a noise outside the bathroom, a door opening, then shutting. I waited 10 seconds and called out softly, "Hello? Is anyone there?" When no one answered, I waited another 10 seconds. The lights flickered off, and I held my breath. A creak echoed as a brief layer of light spread across the room before dissipating. Then the door closed with a resounding thud. I realized I was not alone in the bathroom. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the worst. When the lights came back on, I saw the blank, gray, emotionless face of a statue staring out from the stall door. Its stone hands gripped the top of the door, and for a moment I wanted to cry, frozen in that painfully long minute. Then the lights went out again. Mustering every ounce of courage, I crawled on the bathroom floor and managed to squeeze under the stall door. I felt around until I discovered that the door to the supply room was open, and I darted out, only to be met by a heavy thud as the bathroom door slammed behind me. I yanked it open and closed it forcefully on my way out, then immediately locked the bathroom with my keys and ran to the museum's exit, wiping sweat and tears from my face. When I reached the front doors of the museum, I tried pulling them open, but they were locked. I didn't have the keys to the main exit. I pulled on the doors repeatedly, but each time I only heard a small click as they refused to budge. In a panic, I ran back to the janitor's closet, noticing with growing horror that a couple of the statues had shifted closer to me. I knew I wasn't imagining it. My mind was not deceiving me. I attempted every possible exit. Emergency doors were chained shut. Every door I tried remained locked. Finally, I decided to barricade myself inside the janitor's closet until someone from the museum arrived. I spotted a fire extinguisher on the wall, opened its case, reasoning that if anything worsened, I could use it as a weapon. I gathered my keys and prepared myself, shutting the door and cramming into the small room. I inserted the key into the lock, turned it until I heard a click, then pulled it out. For a brief moment, I felt relief as the familiar scent of cleaning chemicals and musty fabric filled the air. That relief vanished when I heard a sound coming from the adjacent room. It appeared to be coming from the bathroom. My heart pounded as I gripped the fire extinguisher tightly. Then I realized it wasn't a human noise. It was coming from one of the statues. It emitted a low, persistent sound for what felt like 10 agonizing minutes. My head ached and I felt dizzy. I can't recall exactly what happened, but I remember waking up, though I'm not sure if I had passed out. I assumed it must have been morning. Hearing no one else, I cautiously unlocked the door and cracked it open a bit. Everything was still shrouded in darkness. My mind was foggy, my vision blurry. I could just make out a towering silhouette in the hallway. Its presence was unnerving, moving without making any noise, as if it were gliding above the floor. The thudding in the bathroom had stopped. I opened the door a little further, and the hinges screeched loudly, echoing throughout the building. The statue halted its movement and then slowly turned around. I slammed the closet door shut, or at least attempted to, and looked up to see a pair of gleaming marble hands blocking the door, their lifeless face the same I had seen in the bathroom, hollow and soulless. I kicked the door open and ran, not knowing where to go, dashing past the figure in the hall and into the museum's main area. To my shock, every statue was missing from their designated spots. I know this museum well. I thought I could find a new hiding place, somewhere safe. I ran frantically through the vast halls until I reached a door near the emergency exit stairs at the back. I sprinted to it and rammed my hands into the push bar with all my strength. Something was blocking the door on the other side, but I persisted, and slowly it began to open. Each push made the door open a little more, and I looked back to see the room filling with stone figures, statues, gathering, all staring at me as they advanced. I backed up, colliding with the door with all my might. The push bar clicked as it finally gave, and I kicked the door closed behind me. The room I entered was pitch black, and I fumbled around desperately trying to find the stairs. I reached out and felt the cold metal railing, found one step, then another, until I could see a faint light through the emergency door's small window. The statues were drawing nearer, and I ran up the stairs as fast as I could until I saw the promise of escape, a glimpse of moonlight streaming through the rooftop door. I was only a few steps away when I felt something grab my foot. It was unnaturally cold. I could barely make out a face, a huge twisted grin on the statue's features. Its grip tightened and its smile grew even wider. I tried tugging free, but its hold only intensified. I swung the fire extinguisher at its hand, but before I could strike, I tripped and slammed my head onto a step. Suddenly, as I struggled upward, I was dragged down. My face hit each step with a thud, and a terrible metallic taste filled my mouth while my nose filled with blood. I couldn't see clearly, but I knew I had reached the bottom. I felt unable to move. I clutched the fire extinguisher like a lifeline. When I looked up, the door ahead was swarmed by dozens of stone silhouettes, all fixed on me. My muscles burned with fatigue, but I managed to lift the extinguisher and bring it down repeatedly on the statue's hand, shattering most of its stone fingers. The statue let out a shriek as it staggered, yet my ankle throbbed as if broken. Slowly, I made my way back up the stairs toward the light. I pushed open a door and stumbled onto the roof. The sun had just begun to rise, and I lay there wiping the blood from my nose, stealing one last terrified glance at the open door below. A thin sliver remained, with the cold, dead, stony face of a statue staring back. I can't say exactly what happened between then and now. I've spent the last several hours in a hospital bed, and earlier the police came asking questions. They mentioned that they had found the bodies of 5 security guards in the women's bathroom. I told them everything. The statues, everything that happened that night. They didn't believe me. They think I'm crazy. They suspect I killed those men. But I know what happened that night. I know what I saw.